so you don't need to see too much. All right. So the crooked corpse pose we call Swara Shavasana. The knees are bent so that you can have your feet flat onto the floor. Getting settled onto your back, you can have your hands on your thighs, fingers kind of pointing upwards. Little wiggles to your head, resting the shoulders, accommodating the elbows. You can move the elbows in or out from the body. And then as you settle here, just feeling gravity for a moment, breathing in and breathing out. If the legs naturally touch together, you can keep the thighs leaning in on one another. Sometimes moving the feet a little farther apart or turning the toes a little bit farther out will help you adjust so the legs can relax. As you inhale, feeling the ribs expanding in all directions. And when you exhale, just feeling a gentle contraction to the rib cage. As we breathe, trying to expand the ribs in all directions, of course, will meet the resistance of the floor. We can use that resistance constructively, creatively. Just breathing naturally. You don't have to take especially deep breaths, although from time to time that might feel really helpful, really satisfying. You don't need to put too much effort into your exhalation, although making sure that you're breathing out is really helpful and conducive to taking a new and fresh breath in. If you have your eyes closed, it might be a little bit easier to visualize what I'm going to describe, which is the simple action of your ribs. When you inhale, there's a set of muscles that presses the ribs apart, and it expands the rib cage by creating space between the ribs. And when you exhale, there's a set of muscles that squeezes the ribs together. So if we could imagine opening shutters when we inhale and closing the shutters when we exhale. Those kind of rolling blinds, you can open the spaces when you inhale and you can close the spaces when you exhale. We could add the imagery of light to the breathing here so that when you inhale, like you're letting more light into the lungs, and when you're breathing out, like you're closing the lungs off to the light. And we'll just do this one more time, breathing in, feel the collarbones, again, feel the floor. We feel the contraction, the strength of the exhalation. And we're going to move the arms straight out to the side, kind of T position. You can just roll the arms away, keeping the elbows bent so the shoulders are comfortable. You might have the arms just a little bit lower than the shoulder height, so the arms are a little bit across from the ribs. And then rolling your head to the right and to the left, going slowly from side to side. We'll keep the head in motion. And the next time that your head goes to the left, pause for just a second, move both of your knees to the right, just a little bit off your midline. And then turning your head to the right, move your knees to the left, just a little bit off your midline. We'll come side to side with the knees going right, your head turning left, and with your knees going left, your head turning to the right. And this pacing as you get going is entirely yours, neither too fast nor too slow. Just the perfect bowl of porridge, just right for your breathing, motion in your body. You can keep your head relaxed and let the legs continue on just a couple more times, maybe, and one more left side. The feeling of action through the hips, through the pelvis. And when you're finished from that left side, we'll return to the center and pause for a moment. Keep your left foot out near the sideline of your yoga mat. Lift your right leg up into the air. Place your right ankle across your left thigh. And let that right leg bring both of the legs to the right, down to the floor. And we'll add a little bit of a twist and a little bit of extra pressure. It's very similar to what you were just doing, right? That same kind of tick-tock motion, but now with the right leg, kind of a paperweight on the outer left thigh. Hopefully it doesn't feel too intense. Just one more breath. Now here's the slightly challenging part. Keep the left foot strong. So you might even flex your left ankle so you can lift the legs both up to the center and then lift your left foot off the floor. Lift your head up so you can then take your arms to grab your left leg. And we're setting up that figure 4. Now for some of us, just getting here is enough. You might have your left foot on the ground and just feeling the situation and the strength that provides. If you want to add more, you can use your arms to pull in a little bit closer. You might lift your head towards your knee and tuck in a little bit tighter. You can also press your right forearm, the right elbow, into your right thigh. And if this feels all too much, you don't have to add every element. 2 more breaths. You can certainly put your shoulders and head on the floor. Sometimes opening up that left leg a little bit straighter gives you a little bit more to look at. You can play around there. And just one more full breath in. Your exhalation to lower your left foot. Release your hands, of course. Stretch your right leg to the ceiling. Grab hold of your right thigh. Just going to twirl the ankle around a couple times. Little small circles going clockwise a couple times and then counterclockwise, reversing the direction. And lower your right foot to the floor. Take your time, please. Separate your feet toward the edges of your mat, just a little bit wider than the hip distance. Roll the arms out into that T position, the palms facing upward. Moving both of your knees to the right and then to the left and to the right again. Returning to this twist, you can add your head so when the knees go left, you can turn to look right. Knees go right, you can turn to look left. Really simple breathing, natural flow from your legs to your breath. All right, we'll pause the next time we're in the middle. Bringing that left ankle across the right thigh, and then helping that right knee to move toward the floor, both legs to the ground over on your left. You can give a little bit of strength from the hips, actively engage the buttocks. It's almost as though you're trying to press your pelvis, the space between the hip and the left. You want to be careful of the knees, of course. Now you can lower your hips to the floor as you bring the knees up. Keep the ankle crossed over in the figure 4. We're going to lift the right foot. Your head and shoulders can come off the ground as you look at your legs. Your left hand goes through that little window and then grabbing hold of the right leg. And here you might already have your shoulders and head on the floor. Your left elbow, your left forearm can press forward and out to the side a little bit. And with all these cues, I neglected to mention the left thigh is a wonderful example of external rotation. Right? So the top of your thigh is rolling out, kind of facing over toward the left. That left femur bone and rotated away from the midline. One more, maybe 2 more breaths if you're having a good time here. You don't have to use the arms exclusively. The right leg can do a lot for you. Releasing your hands slowly, your right foot to the floor. Stretch the left leg to the ceiling, extending through the heel, and then twirling the ankle. And you can grab hold with the hands, supporting that left leg from behind, circling the ankle the other way around. You can wiggle the toes. I don't know, my left foot isn't as responsive as my right foot. I always kind of notice that. So you might notice something similar. Maybe you're left-handed and your left foot is the more capable, more dexterous one. Bring both knees into the chest, head toward your knees, rocking a little bit side to side. We're going to do one more thing here on our backs. Before you put your head down, lower your hands flat to the floor, and then moving your legs into what we're going to call the box position. So your knees are vertical above your hips, your calves are parallel with the floor out in front of you. The closer you bring your knees to your chest, the less strain this is going to give you. If you want to challenge yourself, you can move the legs forward, but do try to keep your shins parallel. Take a deep breath in. Lower your feet down as you exhale near your hips. Put your shoulders and head on the floor. Bend your elbows. Find that robot style position. Lifting your hips into the bridge. Holding here for a few breaths. Try to get a sense of your heels underneath your knees, your shins vertical now, perpendicular with the floor. And then giving your body one more full breath in. When you exhale, lower your hips coming down slowly. Once the hips touch down, lift your feet into the boxed position, flexing the ankles, big breath in, and then coming right back down, exhaling your feet to the floor. Bridge pose, we're going to lift the hips, inhaling. And it's your exhalation that helps you to go to the floor safely and smoothly. The next time you inhale, lifting the legs, boxed leg position, or again, if you're going to challenge yourself, you can bring them forward. You'll need to exhale the feet a little bit closer into your hips when you come down so that you're set up properly for your bridge pose. I think you've probably got the rhythm. We're just going to go back and forth between these two spaces, bridge pose and the boxed legs, exhaling to move down, your inhalation to lift up. You can lower your hands flat to the floor if you prefer. The corpse pose style with the arms works really well. The palms open, knuckles on the floor out to the side. I find this really nice when you get into that bridge pose. A third option would be to have your arms overhead alongside your ears with the thumbs hooked together. Breathing in and breathing out. We'll do one more cycle. Bridge pose and hips lifting. And then legs lifting. You don't need to be with me, of course. The last thing we're going to do is bridge pose. So we'll stay a couple extra breaths in our bridge. If you want to stay in your bridge, or while you stay in your bridge, rather, you can bring your hands underneath you, either interlacing the fingers or hooking the thumbs underneath the hips. If you choose this option, you've got possibilities as well to maybe bring the shoulder blades together, right? Possibly straightening the elbows, the inner eye of the elbow strong. One more full breath in wherever you are. We'll exhale to lower the hips. If you haven't done so already, unhook the hands. And when the hips touch down, bring your knees to your chest, head toward your knees, and we'll roll a little bit side to side. This is meant to feel good, the pressure on the back, pressure on the hips. And you can regulate exactly where and how much pressure you're getting. So moving the knees forward, you're going to feel more to the pelvis. A little bit closer to the chest, you're going to feel more in the ribs. Then we'll make our way to sitting. You can change the hands to the backs of the legs and catch a little bit of momentum with plow pose, rocking front to back. If this isn't your thing so much, feel free to roll over to one side, and then we'll use the arms to sit up. When you are sitting upright, extending your legs out in front of you, leaning back onto your hands. You might want to have your heels on the mat, so in which case you just move your whole body back, just scoot the hips behind you. With the legs out front and leaning onto the hands, your fingers can be pointing forward or out to the side. And for right now, just a more casual situation while we move the legs side to side, toes left and right in that windshield wiper action. And you'll notice now we're experimenting with that rotation. So you'll feel the knees turning as the toes turn. You might not feel quite as much in the hips. So what we'll do is bend the knees a couple extra inches. And just like we were doing a minute ago on our backs, this kind of windshield wiper action from the right to the left. And you can feel the rotation now really coming from the hips and how you're able to control it. We'll pause this movement and then plant the feet flat. We don't want to bring the feet too close in, so just barely flat. Like if you bring them any further forward, the toes are going to lift. Press into your palms and really straighten the elbows. Bring your shoulder blades together. So again, this is external rotation to the elbows. That inner eye is turning to look left. Now, the arms always want to do more than they need to. So we want to remind ourselves that the legs are going to pick up the rest, lifting the hips, and it's all coming out of the thighs and the buttocks, the abdominal core. You can tip your head back if that feels okay for your neck, but it's not necessary. 2 more breaths. Press into your heels as though you're trying to smear them apart, like you wanted to create a little wider space between the heels. Big breath in when you're ready, and we'll lower the hips with the exhalation. Slow and steady to the floor. Good. Bringing the knees apart so the feet can come together, Baddha Konasana. Grabbing hold of the ankles and rocking a little bit side to side. You can put a blanket underneath your tush. A little bit of support underneath the hips will go a long way. Settle any rocking, and before we fold, really tall posture here, full breath in, and your exhalation to lead with the heart folding forward with as much of that length that you just provided as possible. Even though the shoulders want to round, the head can dip a little bit toward the toes. Still breathing the space in the spine, in the back, in the hips. When we used to do these stretches in high school, I played lacrosse and I was on the wrestling team. And we would do these butterfly stretches. This was like the most common stretch we would do. And a lot of times people would flap the knees. And I don't recommend flapping the knees. So I would do that. One of the very first classes that I took with my teacher, Sonia, I was flapping my knees. And I think she very rightly told me to stay still and use my breath instead. So that feeling like you want to flutter, hopefully you can satisfy that by breathing. Just one more cycle here. We'll use the inhalation to rise. So please take your time in lifting up. And as you do arrive, bringing the knees together and just pause for a second. You can hug the shins using the arm support to help you sit tall for a second. And then we'll tuck the feet over to the right side, bring the hands around to the left, and we'll travel over onto all fours. Here you might put a blanket underneath your knees. As you get yourself supported on hands and knees, the palms can be a little bit forward to give the wrists some space. Sometimes if you're at a perfect right angle, it's a little bit too steep an angle. Looking forward, lifting your chin, we'll take a deep breath into cow pose. And then with your exhalation, scooping the pelvis, chin to the chest, cat pose. Inhaling once again to look forward, moving through the spine, this wave-like motion. We'll travel rounding, exhaling. And as we float from front to back, this motion in just a second, maintaining the rhythm, feeling your breath as your guide. The next time that you're looking forward, slide the hands forward or walk the hands forward just a step on each side. When you are looking forward, we're going to lean forward, kind of rock the body forward. And then when we go into the rounded back of cat, move the hips toward child's pose, but not quite so far. Cow pose, inhale, looking forward, rock a little bit forward, careful of the knees. When you round your back, we're pressing back or drifting back towards child's pose. And the whole intention behind what we're doing, embellishing this cat and cow, is to give you a little bit more awareness of the collarbones, the shoulder blades, maybe a little bit more awareness of what the abdominal core is able to provide, what the hips are able to show you. And just one last cycle, inhaling and exhaling. We are going to move to our child's pose. So the next time you're moving in that direction, you can just continue to go there. Hips to the heels, elbows, maybe your forehead on the floor. A block, if you have one at home, can go a long way underneath your forehead. You could put a dictionary if that's not too cumbersome. The humanistic option is to make loose fists with your hands and stack those fists. You can rest your forehead on them. And this is all in lieu of putting your forehead on the floor. Breathing, of course. If you're watching me, I've got my head up just so the audio is a little bit better. I think it sounds less muffled if I don't put my head on the ground. So you're welcome to stay a couple extra breaths, resting your head. Feeling the influence of your breath in your hips and your lower back, as well as the shoulders and the chest. Just one more breath here, inhaling and exhaling. We'll rise onto all fours. Please take your time. Supporting yourself on hands and knees, extend your right leg behind you with the toes tucked under and your foot on the floor, just rocking a little bit front and back. Very simple, pedaling through the heel, through the arch, through the toes. Hopefully opening up any compression from the knees, the back of the leg. And we'll switch the legs, bringing the right knee under, the left leg back. Again, really just to open up the calf muscle, give you space through the side and the back of the knee, inner arch, inner ankle. Just one more breath, feeling into the toes. We'll bring that left knee under. Rounding your back, cat pose to look at the knees. The next time you breathe in, arching into cow. We'll just do this one more time, cat pose and cow pose. Really simple rhythm to the pelvis, to the spine. When you have your head lifted, we'll pause again in cow. Your knees back toward the rear of your yoga mat. Lower your hips to the floor and then walking the elbows forward out in front of you, modifying our Sphinx pose. Supported on your forearms, rock the hips and the heels a little bit so that you can bring the feet closer together, feeling that same kind of rotation as the heels wag from side to side. We can feel how the kneecaps are turning, following that all the way up to the hip socket and the pelvic joint. We'll pause with the legs so that we can apply pressure downwards. So that strength of cobra pose to the thighs, the tops of the feet. And as you lift your head maybe a little bit higher, drop the shoulders down the back, away from your ears, moving your chin side to side as though you were saying no. And as you're moving your head in the no motion, very simple twists to your spine, try to keep your chin close to your throat, right? Keeping your jawbone a little bit further back. And just one more time right, one more time to the left. And then bringing it to the center. Tip your right ear toward your right shoulder. And then in a rainbow-like movement up and over to the left, left ear to left shoulder. And we'll travel from one pot of gold across the rainbow to the other pot of gold. And when you have your head to the left, you can press your right elbow down. If you have your head to the right, you can press your left elbow down. In addition to the side-to-side movement that we're making, you might choose to pause on one side. So for instance, if you stay on the right a little bit longer, pressing that left elbow down, you might move your chin around like you were chewing a piece of bubble gum that was too big. And making sure to give similar attention on the other. So one more breath, maybe two, depending on what you're getting involved with here. And we'll settle to the center. So when you do come to the middle, bring the elbows out wide, bring the hands together, overlapping the wrists, resting your forehead on your forearms. And again, I don't want to lower my head too much because it'll muffle the sound. Feel the resting of your head. Press the tops of your feet down to the floor a little bit. And in a similar way, press your forehead into your wrists. So make sure that you're still facing the floor, your nose is pointing at the ground. And as you put that pressure of your forehead in, imagine that the top of your head could extend forward a little bit. So the toes sliding back even as they're pressing. The top of your head reaching forward even as your forehead is pressing. And just one more breath. Missing any effort when you exhale. Lifting your head so you can see what I'm going to show you, but once you see, you don't need to keep watching. Bend both of your knees and then swing your calves from side to side. And we recognize this as the inverse of what we were doing on our backs. It does help to keep the knees a little bit closer together, although they don't have to stay touching the whole time. If the knees start to walk away from each other, you can let that happen. It's just a little bit of information about your own hip and thigh joint, right? The way it's expressed in your body. When your legs go to the right, you can turn your head left, looking over your shoulder. When your legs go left, you can turn your head right, looking over your right shoulder. And we'll just go side to side one more time each, from the right to the left. And we'll come back to the center. Lower your head, lower your feet once again. You can be much more passive this time, more breath focused, breathing to your belly button, breathing into your back. Feeling the pressure to the ribs. Sometimes that pressure on the ribs is welcome and you can kind of lean in or add. Returning to that image I gave you earlier of the shutters opening and closing. Because very often we think, okay, I take a deep breath in, and as the breath enters my lungs, the lungs expand and that pushes the ribs. And when I exhale, the lungs deflate and that causes the ribs to contract or to shrink. This isn't really what's happening. It's the lungs following the ribs. So we'll lift the head once again. Bring the legs together so the big toes are side by side, just barely touching. Slide the arms forward into that Sphinx pose. The closer your elbows are to your chest, the higher up you're going to be and the more intense this is going to be. So you can bring the elbows forward. Just make sure that the shoulders and the chest are happy. Pressing the tops of both of your feet into the floor, we're going to lift the right leg into what we call half locust. Keep the left foot pressing. Take a deep breath in and then lower the right leg when you exhale. Press both feet evenly and then lifting your left leg, flexing your left foot, breathing. We'll point the toes and set it down slowly. Sorry if I gave you two confusing cues. I realize I'm getting ahead of myself. So we're going to lift the right leg once again, and this time we'll flex the right foot. So the ankle flexion just gives you a little bit more power, access to the buttocks and the thighs. And then we'll point the toes before setting the right foot down. And we'll just do one more time on the left side lifting. So while the left leg is up, you can keep the right foot pressing down, that left foot flexed, and then point your toes, breathing in, and we'll set it down, exhaling. Again, the elbows coming out wide to make a little pillow, resting your forehead on your wrists. Bend both knees once again, starting in unison with both legs, left and right, that windshield wiper action. And sometimes the windshield wipers get a little bit sink, so you can crisscross the ankles. So in other words, the calf muscles, the thigh bones are rolling, right, in opposition to one another. And crisscrossing the ankles, you can also switch which ankle goes in front, which ankle goes in back. And you can go pretty wide. We want to take care not to go too fast. Right? Stay in control of the movement. We'll settle the legs, feet to the floor. Lifting your head just enough to move the arms, hands near your chest, and we'll press up onto all fours. Oftentimes walking the knees forward a little bit more directly underneath the hips will give you the support that you need. Let your head dangle like a weeping willow tree down toward the floor. Let the hips swing from side to side, just like the weeping willow branches in a light breeze. Keep your arms fairly straight. We can be strong through the elbows. This will give more attention to the shoulders. Circling the hips around, maybe starting small, getting gradually wider in the circles. If this is really tender on your knees, of course, you don't have to stay so long. You can grab a blanket or that beach towel to put as padding. We're going to reverse the circle, going the other direction around. And as we travel around more times in these circles, you can lift your head a little bit, maybe even looking forward out in front of your fingers on the floor. And one last circle going all the way around. We're going to modify our child's pose. So when your hips are near your heels, we'll pause there for a second. Lift the feet to curl the toes underneath. Lower your hips to your heels and the elbows to the floor. Maybe you want to set that pillow up for your forehead again. This is fairly intense for most of us in the toes and the feet, so just breathing here is enough. You don't have to have so much pressure. You can lean on your elbows. If it feels good for you, you've been waiting for this kind of a pose, try to grab the floor with the toes. Activate the arches a little bit. You can give a little bit of strength to the ankles. Just one more breath. Check in with that mental commentary. You know, if it feels really intense, you can always say, it's a little too intense. Rise up onto all fours. So nice and slowly, as you lift onto your hands and knees, we're going to move to standing. So through our downward facing dog, you can walk the hands out front. The toes are already tucked under, so lifting your knees, lifting your hips, and you're welcome to stay here for several breaths. Some of you might be ready to walk forward, so in which case go ahead and move your feet toward your hands toward your feet, and then we'll rise up nice and slowly. Hands to your hips, lifting your head first, And as you arrive standing, just let your arms rest. Please take your time getting here. The shoulders relaxed. Any little adjustments to your clothing. Breathing naturally. We'll do a few things from standing, a lot of them familiar. If you're using blocks or you have a folding chair somewhere to help with the forward bending, going up and down, you might make those available toward the top of your mat. Some other adjustments here are to step forward toward the front of your mat because we'll open up the stance, stepping back a little bit. So just having that space to the rear is helpful at first. We're going to bend and straighten the knees a couple of times, just feeling the kind of lubricating action to the hips, to the knees, maybe to the ankles. The next time you've got the knees bent, we'll go just a little bit deeper into the squat. And then as you inhale, straightening your legs, lift your arms in front of you up alongside your ears. And then lowering your arms, returning to the squat. This will be our exhalation. Coming right back up when you inhale, reaching the arms for the ceiling, you can lift your chin. Lowering the arms as you exhale, keep your chin up. Your hands can float behind the hips slightly. We'll inhale to rise again. The trick with this movement, I like to call the ski jumper, is to keep the chin, the chest up even as the arms go behind you. All right? So we're trying to maintain that upright posture, a little bit of cow pose in the chest, a little bit of cobra pose in the collarbones. And we'll do just a couple more of these in flow. The pressure primarily in the heels, even though we're using the entirety of each foot. And we get a sense of balance and pressure in the heels that allows us access to the buttocks. The tops of the thighs get their attention as well. Just one more time as you move down into the squat. We're going to come all the way up on the inhalation, really reach for the stars. Using your squat to lower all the way down. So the knees bending, the fingers to the floor. Maybe the block, maybe you're on a chair, on a little bit of a bench, your couch cushion. Letting the head hang as heavily as possible toward the floor, moving your chin, no side to side. And then pausing that action, say yes in super slow motion. Letting the weight of the skull give you a little bit more influence to the spine. Pausing the yes motion, lift your hands to your hips. Head first, roll the shoulders back. Rise up strong, legs straight as you arrive standing. A moment of breath here, wiggling the fingers. And here with your eyes open, we're going to place the hands onto the abdomen. So above your belly button and below the sternum, the hands right on the solar plexus, that kind of belt or ribbon-like band around the torso. So we think of the solar plexus, not just the front of the body, but the whole circumference. This also has a lot to do with that span of your diaphragm. I sometimes like to think of the diaphragm like a trampoline, kind of moving up and down with the breath. Separate your feet, your hands one over the other on that solar plexus, and just a tiny little bit of a squat. We're going to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. So let's do this 2 times together. Big breath in through the nose. Exhaling with a whisper. It can be as loud or as soft as you like. Inhale the legs straight. Bending the knees. Exhaling with a whisper, with a sigh. Straightening the legs. Now, we're going to exhale with a pulse. So 3 times, inhale through your nose, exhaling, bending your knees. We'll do that 3 more times together. Big breath in, straighten the legs. Exhaling as you squat. Inhaling the legs straight. Keep your hands to monitor the pulse in the belly. We'll do this just one last time. Full breath in. Relax your arms alongside your body, legs straight. When you inhale, circle the arms overhead. When you exhale, circle the arms in front of you and just look down at your hands touching. When you inhale, lift the arms, lift your chin. You can lean back a little bit. When you exhale, circle the arms in front, making fists with your hands. Tap the knuckles together. When you inhale, open the fingers brightly, lifting your chin. When you exhale, squeeze the hands into fists, looking down at the knuckles tapping. Your inhalation expanding up and open. Your exhalation squeezing, kind of standing cat pose. You can flex the chest muscles. We'll do this a couple more times and then add in our side stretches. So notice the balance and the way it's distributed as you go up and down in the squat, right? The way it changes from the heels to the toes, from the inside arches to the outside edges. In the natural flow, when your arms are overhead, grab your right wrist a little bit taller and then to the left side. It's okay to lean a little bit. It's okay if the hips sway, just as long as you're doing that consciously. Inhale to lift up. Separate the arms, goddess pose. You can do a little rah, rah, rah. Circle the wrists for a second. And then we'll reach up, grab your left wrist high as you can over to the right side. And you might move the hips a little bit. You might lean a little bit, making sure that your breath is in flow, steady rhythm. In your timing, we're going to inhale to lift up. Free the arms all the way to the floor. Bend your knees, fingers to the ground, making use of any block or support that you might have down below. Keeping your knees bent, walk your hands over to the right, maybe alongside the right side of your yoga mat. Move your hips a little bit to the left and bend your left knee. Try to straighten your right leg just a little bit more. Lift your right hand to your hip, turn to look up past your shoulder, and then you can reach your right arm into the ceiling. Of course, you can turn your head to look at your thumb. You take a deep breath in and exhale to lower the right arm back and down. The fingertips will skitter over to the left, walking along the ground little by little. The hips can swing a little to the right as you bend your right knee and the left leg goes straighter. Your left hand to your hip. Open the chest first to look up and then lift your arm maybe. Looking up is an option. Your thumb is pointing overhead. Full breath in. Exhale the arm back and down to the floor, walking the fingers to the middle. Hands to your hips to stand. Take your time rising. And as you find yourself standing, step your feet together. They don't have to touch, just a little bit of space between the heels and the toes. Bringing your arms overhead alongside your ears, standing nice and tall, feeling that imaginary thread from the top of your head. Deep breath in. Twisting to the right as you exhale. Your right arm behind you, you can look over your shoulder. Your left arm straight out in front of your chest. Inhaling to lift the arms facing forward. And then we'll turn to the left side with the exhalation rotating. You can look behind you. Please take your time. You're breathing. Inhale to lift the arms facing forward. We'll turn to the right, exhaling. Palms can be up, elbows can be bent. Breathing in to lift. Turning to the left side, breathing out. Notice the rotation from the hips, the knees, the ankles, even the arches of your feet are registering the rotation. Do one more time here on the right side, and one more time over on the left side. So your motion, your timing, your breathing. From the left, we'll join the hands overhead in prayer position, draw them down to the heart, and then releasing the hands behind your back. So again, I'm going to turn my back to you so you can see the hand placement if you need to. The palms are open, stacked one over the other on the sacrum. So that wedge-like bone between the two halves of the pelvis, and that's our target. Bring your chin to your chest initially. Squeeze the buttocks so we flex the tops of the thighs and the glutes. And the squeezing of the glute muscles is different than just clenching, right? It's a little bit more nuanced. We're going to try to lean back, pressing the hips forward. You can keep your chin to your chest or maybe look up. More important than all of that is breathing, making sure you can find and feel that expansion to your abdomen. Stand up on your inhalation. Bend your knees, folding with your exhalation. You can slide your hands down the legs, fingers to the floor. Head and neck releasing. With the feet a little bit closer together, we're going to walk the hands to the right side again. Just notice the difference with the feet a little bit more narrow versus a little bit wider. Your right hand to your hip. You can look up, you can reach up. Just one more breath here. Your exhalation to lower the right arm back and down, and then your fingers over to the other side. And again, with the feet closer together, notice what's happening to the ankles. Asking a little bit more of the legs here. Your left hand to your hip, maybe reaching up, possibly looking up. We'll see how it goes. Full breath in. Exhale the left hand coming down. Return to the center. Use a little bit of that ski jumper position, bending the knees, hands to the hips, lift your head first. Standing up with the torso strong, the legs will take you the rest of the way. Letting the arms rest for a moment, breathing in and breathing out. We're going to step the right foot back. So that right leg swinging behind you, just a natural step. This is what we would call the warrior stance. If you want to make this more specific, you can step your left foot onto the side edge of your yoga mat. And then you can also step the right heel back on the same sideline of your yoga mat. And this is one way to detect and determine the alignment of the heels. But for a lot of us, what's going to serve us is to step the right foot more toward the middle of the yoga mat, while the left foot is a little bit further to the side. Take your left hand and put it over to your right shoulder. Turn to the right, extend your right arm behind you. You can look back. Inhale your arm up and over on the exhalation, following through the circle as you breathe. Inhale to lift, facing forward as you exhale. You can bend your front knee, straighten both legs, especially as you reach up. And we'll just make 2 more circles coming all the way around. You can turn the palm. You can monitor the way the eye of the elbow is behaving. And this last circle with that right arm in the forward motion, we'll pause with the right arm next to your body. Stand still for a second just to feel your balance. Turn the right palm forward, lifting it forward and up, and then back and down, kind of backstroke motion, very similar to the with the rotation. And as you get in motion, inhaling up and exhaling, coming back. Now you can bend the knees, of course. If you choose to bend your right knee, that back leg, if you're going to bend that knee, make sure you're keeping your heel on the floor and you're really sitting into the squat, because it's possible that you're putting the pressure in the right knee instead of the hip. And we want to keep it in the hip for strength, for safety. Last circle as you come through. We'll let that right arm rest, your hands to your hips. Facing forward, take a beat to get square, right? Just feel the breath. So the hips are square. Deep breath in as you lift your chin, and then we'll fold forward. You can walk your hands down to the knee, to your shin, to your ankle. Maybe one hand on the floor, either side of your foot. Maybe you have your hands on blocks, right? All of that can be supportive. Your forehead can rest toward your knee. We'll be here just a couple more breaths. We're looking primarily at that left hamstring. You might find your calf, the arch of the foot, certainly a lot going on in the hips. In preparation to stand, bringing your hands to your hips, lift your head first. Take the shoulders back, and we'll rise coming all the way up. We let it rest for just a moment, and we'll step that right foot forward. So you might bend your front knee just to give you a little bit more power. Bring the right foot up next to the left, and maybe setting the block to the side so that it's handy. Before we do the second side, bringing your fingertips up on top of your shoulders and twisting a couple times right and left. Keep the elbows out to the side, nice and high. Your chin can lift a little bit. And most of the rotation here is coming from the torso, coming from the hips and the trunk. But you might swing the elbows a little bit. And if you choose to catch a little bit of momentum, that's fine. Just make sure you're not overdoing it, right? Going too far. Slow it down, which can be kind of tricky because the momentum takes us away. Good. Releasing your hands to your hips. Step your left foot back. So that left foot directly behind you. If you want to be very exact, you can step the right foot onto the edge, your left heel onto that same right side edge of your mat. And then you bring your left foot a little bit to the center so that you've accommodated for the width of the pelvis, the bone spacing. Your right hand over to your left shoulder. Turn to the left, look back over the arm, your left arm extending overhead. Inhale on the upward circle, exhale on the downstroke. Coming back and up, inhaling. And you can bend your right knee, kind of embellishing. If, for instance, when you bend your right knee, it goes really far forward, out in front of the toes, we would then say it's better to extend the stance. So simply put, if when you bend your knee, it goes out in front of your toes, move your left foot back so that you're not able to go so far forward in the lunge when you bend your knee. And that will protect the knee as well as the joints in the hips and the ankle. And this last circle before we reverse, we'll pause for just a moment. Let that left arm stay alongside your hip. Turn the left palm open, making a little cup like you were trying to catch some water. And then with that scoop, lifting up and back in the reverse kind of backstroke motion with that left arm. And as you're circling through, of course, it's not just the shoulder. We've been acknowledging the hips, the knees can bend. Reminding you to keep that left heel on the floor. If you're squatting back into that left leg, it's a big deal, that action. It kind of goes beyond our basic purview here. Might still be gentle, but it's certainly a little bit complicated. And in the natural course, your flow, just one more circle. Inhaling up and exhaling, take it back. And it's a little challenging to stop, but when that left arm is next to your hip, just release both arms. We're trying to face forward, squaring up the hips as much as possible. Chin lifting before you fold. Inhale. Exhale, folding, hands to your knee, to your shin. Blocks or on either side of your foot. Forehead toward your knee. You can certainly work the right leg, maintaining just that micro bend at the knee, very active in the arch. of your foot. And breathing, of course. Awesome, you all. Great job. Moving slowly to bend your front knee, your hands to your hips. Lift your head first to stand. And as you arrive standing, we'll pause for a moment. Step your left foot to meet the right. And again, you can rock a little bit as you bring that left foot to join it. Feet close together. If it's possible for you, bring your feet all the way together. So even the knees and the ankles might be touching. For some of us, that's really too close. So keeping a little toes in the heels. Bringing the arms straight forward and up. Just like we did with the ski jumper position, we're going to inhale to lift. And with the exhalation into that squat, the arms can move behind you. Making a little bit of a change here, coming all the way up to the center. When you lower down, bring your arms to the right. So both hands go to the side of your hips. Inhale to sweep forward and up. You can lift your chin. And both of the arms go down to the left with your exhalation. So the inhalation brings you up the middle. And we switch sides each time. Exhaling to the right, you can look at your right hand. You try to keep the shoulder distance between the hands, both at the top and the bottom. So keeping room for the chest and the shoulders is essentially what that translates to. Right side and left side, we'll keep going a couple more times each way. Notice what's happening with the knees and the hips. Right? It's a little bit challenging for the balance as the legs go a little askew. Right side, last time. If you're finished, I hear you. We'll join you in just a moment. Left, last time. Breathing. When you lift up to the center, we're going straight to the middle into our forward bend. Your exhalation, taking the hands to the floor, fingers to the ground. And if you're using your blocks, that's wonderful. Just take the blocks with you. We're going to walk the hands forward just a foot or so. Lean into your hands. Keep your heels on the floor. Straighten your legs. And then keeping your legs as straight as you now have them, walk your hands toward your toes. And just notice the threshold where it becomes entirely too intense, or maybe you discovered something wonderful and new that you want to breathe into. Bend your knees, rock back a little bit into your heels, and then notice the strength and support that you now have. Still using the entire foot, we're going to stand up from here, hands to your hips, lift your head first, and then we'll rise all the way. Just breathing naturally. It's amazing, you all. Great job. So let the arms rest. We're going to separate the feet into a kind of V shape. So the toes are pointing out to the left and to the right. Bringing the arms straight up the middle once again as we did earlier, breathing in, and then lowering the hands with the exhalation, fingers to the floor. We're going to squat down from here, and you have the options of lifting your heels and keeping your hands on the floor. Of course, you might have your heels on the ground, and you might choose to lift your hands, prayer position to the heart. If you're ready to sit down, please go ahead and sit down. Using the elbows to press into the thighs, and you can still do this if you have your hands on the floor. The thighs clamping in on the elbows. Once you have that active, try to rise a little higher through the top of your head, that proverbial thread from the crown helping you to sit up a little bit taller, even as you're keeping the hips low in the squat. If you've got another breath, maybe two, please give it some time here. If you're ready to dismount, the hands go to the floor one at a time and then sit down, or you can just reach forward and let go and roll, grabbing the thighs. You can rock a few times front to back. We are going to stay on the ground. So once you get to the floor on your back, we'll stay down there, bringing the knees into the chest and rocking a little bit side to side. Now we're going to do this twist excuse me, in 2 different variations. So holding onto your right knee with both hands, straighten your left leg forward and down to the floor. So this first one will be familiar to you. Your right arm out to the side, anchoring the right shoulder, bringing your right leg across your body to the left into the rotation. And of course, you can tuck your right foot behind your left thigh, or just rest your foot on the inside of the left thigh. We try to feel as much length through the spine as possible. So even during the twist and really satisfying sensation, imagine that you could extend your spine from inside. Just one more breath here. Using your left hand on your inner thigh, and then unwinding, offering a little bit of that boost. Bring the right knee to your chest, bring your left knee to your chest, head toward your knees, rocking a little bit side to side. We'll do the left side, hands on your left knee, your right leg out and to the floor. Shoulders and head to the ground as you release your left arm to the side. Your left leg across your body, over to the right in the twist. And if you're happy where you just ended up, you can stay there and breathe. If you want to intensify or emphasize the pose, your left foot behind your right knee and applying a little bit of pressure so that you can open up the chest. A little while ago, I used to give you the cue that you're arching the lower back, but I feel that that happens naturally as you try to raise the heart a little bit. Your right hand on your inner thigh, use your inhalation to help you unwind. Come back to the center, knees to the chest, giving your legs a hug. Now a little bit more complex, your right ankle over your left thigh, and then if you can, slide your thigh together. Both arms into the T position, your head and shoulders on the floor. Move your legs to the left. You can put your left heel down first and then continue moving the knees to the side. If this is too intense, simply straighten your left leg a little bit. In straightening your left leg, you don't have to unhook entirely. You might just keep your knee near the right ankle, somewhere on your calf or shin bone. This is going to add a little bit more strain in the torso, a little bit more toward the hips and the side body. So kind of obscure, but if you can try to extend the waist, especially on your left side, making more room from the hips to the ribs. When you're ready to release, your left hand can help you. Again, using your inhalation to unwind and unwrapping the legs, hugging them to your chest. As we switch sides one last time, the left ankle over the right. Maybe you slide the thighs together. You can lower the right heel straight away and then bring the knees to the right. Your arms rolling out in the T position. Lots of other variations possible, arms overhead and the like. Again, if you feel good, bound up as you are, wonderful, but maybe straightening the right leg, just a little bit less compact situation in the hips and the thighs. As always, we're breathing deeply, using the breath to help us determine whether we're overdoing it or we're spending too much time in the pose. All of that will show up in your breathing. Last breath. We're going to use the right hand underneath the thigh, inhaling to unwind. Knees to your chest. And from here, we're making our way to resting. So if you want to dim the lights in your space or turn the music down or up, depending on what your mood is like. If there's anything else your body's asking for, A bridge pose might feel really nice right now, actually. Even though it's a little bit of work, it feels nice to free the hips after those twists. A little bit of happy baby, classic closing posture, in that it really helps to settle the lower back. So you don't have to grab the big toes to make this happen. Grabbing the heels, the outer or inner thighs, right? All of this can just give a really nice space to the pelvis. As we make our way to Shavasana, or crooked corpse pose, Swada Shavasana, returning to where we started with the feet apart, the knees together, or the legs extended. And of course, you could tuck a cushion or a blanket underneath your knees. In both positions, the arms are out to the side with the palms open. And as you get yourself in position, I'm going to ask you to take your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, you're going to take your left hand lightly onto your abdomen. If you're left-handed, just use your right hand instead. Inhaling through your nose, we're going to make one long exhalation through the mouth. So let's do it together. Big breath in. No need to strain, just finish the exhalation. Inhaling. Do that one more time together. Breathing naturally, you can release your arm to the floor. Any little adjustments, rolling your chin side to side, wiggling your toes so that they can more comfortably relax and settle to the floor. Of course, you can have your eyes closed. We'll rest here for a few minutes. We'll go through just a simple body scan from the feet to the head and relaxing each area in turn. You can tune me out or just keep me in the background, hopefully as a calming voice to help you relax. You can also repeat mentally the second set of cues for each area of the body. So we'll get started with the feet, and you can say to yourself, I can feel my feet, my heels, my arches, and my toes relaxing. I can feel my feet, my heels, my arches, and my toes completely relaxed. I can feel my legs, my knees, and my ankles relaxing. I can feel my legs, my knees, and my ankles completely relaxed. I can feel my hips, my lower back, and my abdomen relaxing. I can feel my hips, my lower back, and my abdomen completely relaxed. I can feel my ribs, my chest, and my shoulders relaxing. I can feel my ribs, my chest, and my shoulders completely relaxed. I can feel my arms, my elbows, and my wrists relaxing. I can feel my arms, my elbows, and my wrists completely relaxed. I can feel my hands, my palms, and my fingers relaxing. I can feel my hands, my palms, and my fingers completely relaxed. I can feel my neck, my throat, and my jaw relaxing. I can feel my neck, my jaw, and my throat completely relaxed. I can feel my chin, my cheeks, and my forehead relaxing. I can feel my chin, my cheeks, and my forehead completely relaxed. Finally, as you let go from the top of the head, I can feel my entire body, my mind, and my spirit relaxing. I can feel my whole body, my mind, and my spirit completely relaxed, deeply at rest. Allowing your body to remain still, returning your awareness to your breathing. Returning to your breath, you might notice if you're coming back from somewhere far away. Give yourself time to feel your body, your place in space, the floor, the earth, the air, the sky. Deepening your breath, expanding your inhalations, feeling the strength to your exhalations. feeling yourself at home and complete throughout your body. Feeling at home and complete on this beautiful earth. Visualizing the flow of your breath moving through your legs, into your feet, and wiggling your toes. Breathing through your arms, into your hands, wiggling your fingers, pressing your thumbs to the fingertips. Rolling your head softly side to side. Breathing toward the top of your head into your hair follicles. Extending your arms overhead in slow motion. You can climb an imaginary ladder, right arm, left arm reaching. In the length, the extension to the torso. The space, toes in the opposite direction. Bring the knees to the chest, giving the legs a hug. You can squeeze in. If it feels good, go ahead and lift your head, rocking a little bit side to side, massaging your back. See what feels best for you. And we'll settle any rocking to make our way to sitting. You can roll to your right side using your right arm as a pillow, and then use the arms to help you sit up, or using the rocking motion to bring your body to a comfortable seated posture, cross-legged or straight-legged. Of course, you can use a blanket and a cushion underneath the hips. And we'll take a moment to close, bringing the hands together at the heart. In this moment, we acknowledge within ourselves and within one another that which is peace, that is joy, that is love, and that is light. Residing inside of this space with both the knowledge and the experience that we are one with all things. And to that light, we bow. Namaste. Thank you all very, very, very much. You're welcome to go right back down to Shavasana if you want to go back to your resting position. Also, you're welcome to stick around. I'm going to come and interact with the chat and wave goodbye. I'll get a little closer to the screen. But you're welcome to go on your way. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thanks, Thomas.